Hi and welcome. I'm Erika Collins with Fortune Christie's International Real Estate Group, and this is my buyer's consultation. If you are new to the purchasing process or would like to know more about how to purchase a property here in Florida, I welcome you to sit along and watch as I demonstrate to you what a buyer's consultation looks like. I encourage you strongly to reach out to me with any questions you might have or to schedule your own private consultation where we can look and see what is out there in the market right now and what you might be interested in. My contact information is 607-425-2464. And my email is erica.collins247@gmail.com. And that's Erika with a K. So thank you for joining, and I look forward to connecting with you later. So in the meantime, I'm going to explain to you what the buying process looks like when you work with me. So step one, um, I'm Erika Collins, like I said, global real estate investment specialist, and I help connect buyers and sellers with their ideal properties and help with the analysis if it's an investment to decide if it's a profitable investment, something that is worthwhile getting into. And so this is just a presentation for the home buying process. If you're interested in commercial or other opportunities, then that requires a different conversation. But welcome to the buyer's consultation. The first question I like to ask my buyers is, where are you in the buying process? Are you 1 to 3 months away? Are you 3 to 6 months away or further? That helps me understand how to serve you best. Sometimes people are just starting to think about the process and they need to have credit repair or to get their finances in order, maybe save up a little bit more for the down payment. And so that would be more like a step three. But if you feel like you're ready, you're already starting to look at things on Zillow, you've already talked to a lender, you would be at step one. Helping you determine where you are is part of what I will help you figure out in our consultation. One of the first big steps to do when going for a house purchase is to obtain a pre-approval from a lender. So before we even have a conversation or after, I'm going to refer you to some lenders in my contacts. You're going to want to get a pre-approval. And what happens with that is you're going to reach out to a lender and they're going to give you an application process, and you're going to have to submit your financial information and other secure documents, and they're going to give you a credit limit of how much you're going to be able to purchase your home for. And once you have that letter, you're either going to get one of three things: a pre-qualification, which is a very weak statement of what you're allowed to purchase, or a pre-approval, which is a lot stronger and highly recommended, is to get a DU, a desktop underwritten approval. And that just means that they've done a lot of the underwriting already, and you're a very strong candidate for when we go to put the purchase offer in on your new home. And of course, I can help you with contacts for that. Or if you have a preferred lender, that would be a great place to start your next conversation. And in the home buying process, your financial stability is crucial. This is not the time to go out and buy a new car or make any expensive credit card purchases, because what's going to happen is your lender is going to look at what they call your debt to income ratio. They're going to look at how much income you have versus how much debt you have. And based on those numbers, they'll be able to tell you how much of a house that you can afford. There's also a few things that you need to watch out for, like if you're going to change jobs, or I've had a situation before where someone needed to get a new car. They currently didn't have any debt with their car, so they reached out to the lender and notified them that within the next 6 months, I'm going to need to purchase a car. So they were able to rework their pre-approval based on the information of what the new car purchase was going to be, because life situations do happen. My role for you, besides just opening doors and showing you homes, is to be your asset through the entire purchasing process. So we're going to work on strategic property selection, which means I'm not interested in wasting your time. And so I want to get to know you and exactly what you're looking for. Let's come up with an idea of what your ideal home is before we even go out looking. We could look at hundreds of properties and not figure out what we want until you've had the chance to really think about it and narrow down, like, what is your lifestyle? What are some of the things that you really think would be amazing to have in your home? And then we start narrowing down the search based on those criterias. And so we'll select some properties and go out and take a look and evaluate after we've seen everything. And then we'll go back to the drawing board if we have to, or we'll go to the next step and make a purchase. Beyond just helping with that, I do all the contract structure and negotiation with you. And part of that is making sure that we're keeping on top of deadlines. There's going to be some deposits that need to be made along the process. And it's my responsibility as your agent to make sure that those deadlines are being adhered to, because missing deadlines can cost you money. And it's my job to make sure that that does not happen. And it's a very strong protection that I have, that I don't ever want to see my clients lose money. I want you to feel satisfied with the entire process. In order to give you the absolute best experience that you could have during the sales and purchasing process, we have to start out with what's called an exclusive buyer broker agreement. It's a new law in the entire country where agents have to have this agreement signed before showing properties to anyone, where we discuss the compensation rules and how much you should be able to expect, or if you have to expect any at all, because sellers are not always obligated. They're not obligated, excuse me, to offer compensation for agents. And so this just negotiates with you and me to make sure that you understand that my services come at a cost as well. So this is our agreement between each other that if, in fact, the seller does not decide to offer compensation for my services, that you would be responsible. However, this is another physical responsibility I try to take on myself as well, to make sure when we go to the house to look, I'm also asking the agent that's listing the property if they are offering compensation. And if they are, great, and I'll let you know. And if they're not, I'm also going to let you know, because I want you to be aware that that's going to be an additional cost for that house. This part of the buyer broker agreement is part of our relationship building. I, as your representation, want you to know that buying a home is a significant financial and personal decision. My role is to guide you following legal guidelines with clarity, discretion, and strategy. To ensure we're aligned from the start, we use a buyer broker agreement. This agreement confirms that I represent you throughout your home search and purchase. It allows me to guide and advise you at every stage of the process. This matters because establishing representation is a legal process that I am required to follow in order to be in compliance with federal law. Current regulations require that we establish representation before touring homes, ensuring clarity, compliance, and full protection for you. In many cases, compensation is offered by the seller or listing brokerage. If it's not, the agreement assures that my services will be compensated. You'll review everything in advance so you have full clarity and no surprises. Part of my service to my clients is ensuring that compensation is provided for by the seller. And if it's not, I fully disclose that to you in advance. This is more than viewing homes. It's about navigating the process with intention and precision, and my role is to guide you so that you make confident, well-informed decisions. Because at the end of the day, I want you to be absolutely happy with your purchase. I want to provide you a thoughtful, strategic, and fully aligned with your goals, and I'm here to walk you through everything when you're ready. So moving on. How I protect you and your finances throughout the process. I manage all timelines to protect your deposit. I identify risks before they become issues. And I structure offers to strengthen your position without unnecessary exposure financially. Like I said earlier, missing a deadline can cost you money. I coordinate with all the parties to keep the process smooth and controlled, and there's many parties involved. I'll be speaking with your lender, the title agency, the inspector, and any other agencies that we decide to bring in on the process. Basically, I want you to be able to go about your workday and not have any thoughts other than packing the house and getting ready to move into your new home. Once we're all aligned and ready to start looking, we'll start searching for properties based on your criteria. We'll select properties through the MLS and the active listings that are there. I'll be looking also for on-market, off-market properties depending on your needs. And understand that sometimes too, when we go to show a property, some sellers want to see that you're pre-approved before we even enter the property. It's kind of rare, but it does happen. So that's where the approval or the DU comes in very handy. When we go to place an offer, this is where we want to make sure we're coming in very strong. We have your DU approval, and what happens before we place that offer is we find a house that you're ready to put a purchase offer on. And what I'm going to do in the background for you is I'm going to look at the local neighborhood, see what other houses are closing for. And I'm also going to look at market stats to see what houses are closing for versus what they were originally being asked for. And that helps us understand what's going on in the neighborhood and the proper pricing for that house that you're trying to purchase. I love to help my clients figure out their negotiation strategy to offer them the best pricing to come in with a strong offer. And this is another way that I help my clients feel confident about their purchase. Okay, so now we put the purchase offer in and it got accepted. What happens now is that within 3 business days, you have to put down an escrow deposit. An escrow deposit is typically 3 to 5% of the purchase price, depending on the value of the home. And that goes to a title agency who holds on to your finances for you during the entire process. This is a hands off to me account that I don't manage in any way. This is regulated by the state. And so your finances will always be protected by the title agency. We'll decide when we're doing the purchase offer what the closing date should be. Typically, we'll put on there around 30 days from what they call the executed contract when both sides agree. Sometimes we can push it out a little bit, or sometimes we can even close within a few weeks, depending on your payment process and how fast it takes you to get approved for your loan. Inspection and financing timeframes. So once we have the executed offer, we have legally up to 15 days to schedule and finish an inspection period. Typically, once we get the executed contract, I'm recommending you call people right away and get someone in there within the next 2 to 3 days. After the inspection, you'll get a full report on what the overall status of the house looks like. And depending on if it's a good report or a bad report, you have up until the deadline that we put in the contract to cancel and back out of that purchase if you decide to do so at that time. The inspection is an out-of-pocket expense, and they can vary depending on what you're trying to do. Typically in Florida, I recommend to my buyers to get a mold and termite inspection on top of the regular inspection because it's Florida. We do have some mold issues sometimes, and there's often termites. And so you just want to make sure that you're getting a safe and sound home. On the financing terms, sometimes there are sellers that want to see the financing come in within a shorter period than the listed 30 days that is on the contract. And those are different things that will determine when we start writing the contract of how soon you think you can get the financing taken care of, or if you're coming in with cash, then that's not even an issue. Okay, so the contract's been written and your offer's been accepted. Now what? This is where my team and I take over the entire process for you to ensure timelines, deadlines, and negotiations are handled seamlessly. All parties are going to receive a copy of the executed contract. You're going to wire funds for escrow deposit and start working on getting insurance for the house. Immediately you're scheduling your inspection. Given the quality of the report, then we'll discuss negotiating any issues affecting the insurability or the value of the home. You're immediately going to apply for association approval, and this could take up to 30 days. Typically, it takes at least 2 weeks, so that's important to keep in mind if you're buying a property within an HOA. You're also going to be working with your lender to submit any additional information to finish the underwriting process so they can get you to the clear to close process. The lender typically will order an appraisal to make sure the value of the home is the same as what you're asking for. And then some other things will happen along the way with the title agency. They're going to order a survey on the home. And I stay in contact with all of these people during this process, as well as staying in contact with you, making sure that you're feeling comfortable and having everything taken care of in a timely manner. So here's the timeline, really, of everything going on from the moment we put a purchase offer in to the moment we close. Your initial deposit is going to be due within 3 days of the executed contract. Typically, I have my clients put down at least $5,000, depending on the price of the property. It could be more than that. Um, of course, again, depending on the price of the property. Your inspection is going to typically run out of pocket about $400 to $800 or more, depending on the extras that you have put in there, like the termite and mold. You're going to be preparing your down payment. If you have a FHA mortgage, it's going to be 3.5% of the total mortgage cost. If it's a conventional loan, it's going to be 20%, or depending on what your funds are, you could put more than that. Once you hit the 20% mark, however, you don't have to pay PMI insurance on your mortgage. For closing costs, you can estimate 2 to 5% of the purchase price for the lender and other fees that go into closing. As of 2026, you can expect closing, title, attorney fees to range anywhere from $700 to $1,000 or more. This always varies. The survey is anywhere from $300 to $600. The appraisal is typically about $300 to $600. And if you have any applicable wire fees for transferring from your bank account to the title agency. I have in the past had a few clients have to do a second deposit just to secure a property, and it's not common, but it can be asked for. If for some reason your appraisal comes back and it's under your asking amount, there's an option to continue the purchase where, say, your house came back valued at $500,000, but your mortgage is for $550,000. You would have to come up with the $50,000 on your own and pay that at closing. We haven't seen that in a couple of years with the housing market cooling off a little bit, though, so that's not something to worry too much about. There is a transaction fee for the broker, my office, for all the paperwork and et cetera that has to happen behind the scenes. And then the HOA fees are typically somewhere in the range of $100 to $200, depending. And that's usually per adult person that's going to be living in the household. So keep that in mind. What it's like to work with me, I don't like to just help you find a home. I like to help you strategize before we even submit an offer, to protect your deposit and the contractual timelines, to negotiate things beyond the price, such as terms, leverage, and positioning, to anticipate any issues before they become problems, and to guide you from contract to closing with precision. My role is to make this process feel clear, controlled, and successful, and as fear-free as possible. If you're wondering if you're an ideal client for me or if I'm an ideal agent for you, I value my clients who value strategy over emotional buying. I value clients who respect my professional guidance. I value clients who are ready to move when the right opportunity appears. And in return, you'll receive a level of service from me that is proactive, precise, and fully aligned with your goals. And along the way, I'll keep you reminded of the goals that you may have, because when those times come where you feel unsteady or unsure, I'll be there to help and guide you to get you to the dream home that you chose. I hope you found this presentation helpful. And of course, I know you're going to have a lot more questions. And so please feel free to reach out to me directly. My line is 607-425-2464. And I am available to answer your questions, usually between the Eastern time hours of between 9 a.m. and 7 p.m. So feel free. I would love to get to know you a little bit more and see how I can help you find that perfect dream home or investment property. Erika Collins, Fortune Christie's International Real Estate, Miami, Florida. Thank you so much.